Nicolas Cage, the man is constantly reminding us that he's got what it takes and can do anything. And on January 6th, Nic Cage is starring in his very first Western film called The Old Way. I got a little bit of an early look at this one. Is it any good though? Well, let's get cracking. The Old Way stars Nicolas Cage as Colton Briggs, a cold-blooded gunslinger turned respectable family man. When an outlaw and his gang put Colton and his family in peril, Colton is forced to take up arms with an unlikely partner, his 12-year-old daughter, played by Kira Armstrong. In terms of genres that I end up watching or avoiding, Westerns actually usually end up on the latter. I haven't seen a lot of Western films in my life that I've loved, but maybe I haven't seen enough of them because as I learned from taking a chance on The Old Way, I found that I actually quite enjoyed it overall. I have my issues with it, which I'll get into, but in general, I found myself pretty engaged with the film, especially the more that it played out and dug deeper into these characters and what makes them so much different than anybody else in the film. There's also this fascinating father-daughter dynamic between Nic Cage and young Kira Armstrong, who you might actually recognize was the little girl that played Charlie in the remake of Firestarter that we just got last year. I bought into the idea that she and Nic Cage were related, and they played off of each other pretty well. That being said, I think that the film could benefit in the visuals department quite a bit, because this has got to be the cleanest looking Western that I think I've ever seen. Maybe I'm looking too deeply into it, but when I think about Westerns, I think dirty, grimy, grainy, even stained. You probably want to stick to filming Westerns on actual film, not digital, to maintain that authenticity, because like I said, it does look really clean. But it's not just filming on digital versus film, it's also the cinematography and the editing. Cinematography, they should have known that it looked too modern. Add some kind of filter on the lens or in post-processing, you know? Drag the cast's costumes through mud and dirt and give it back to them to wear. Give some of the people scars or something, you know? It doesn't take much to really make this a believable Western, because I actually think that that's probably the biggest problem with the film. You know, like on a scale between believable Western and people playing dress up while borrowing an Old West film set, I unfortunately think that it's a bit closer to dress up, unfortunately. Also, with the cast, like I said, Nic Cage did a pretty good job, especially given the fact that this is his very first Western. But when I asked myself on if he felt born to play the role, I don't really think he was. I think had the role been given to somebody else, they could have done just as good of a job, if not better. So even though I did really get into the story and wanted to see how it would all end up, there's all these technicalities that stuck out to me like a sore thumb. Maybe though, maybe it's just me. Now if you're a fan of Westerns in general, it might be a new favorite for you, maybe even a guilty pleasure. If that's the case though, I would certainly love to hear your thoughts about the movie in the comment section down below. But let's go ahead and break down my final score for a second, which I gave this a C+ letter grade, final overall score of 65%, 65 out of 100 possible stars. For others, that might be a lower score, like a D or something, but my scores work a little bit differently than everybody else's, and how I feel about the film is definitely a C+. I enjoyed it, like I said, but it could have used a little bit of improvement here and there. Take that as you will. As for YouTube guys, if you enjoyed this review, make sure to hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.